Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first ever High Fivers CreepyPasta reading. Before we begin, I just want to let you know, if you ever see a blue star, like in the corner, like the top right corner right here, that means it's a story that's made by me. For now, this story is just on YouTube. But if you think I should put it on creepypasta.net or any of those websites that show these scary stories, let me know in the comments, and I'll see what I can do. Well, without further ado, I bring you a fan-our-own creepypasta titled Oscar.6.
Okay, you don't have to know who I am, but just want to start off by saying that this story is a bit of a long one, so just be aware of that. I live in this neighborhood, and I'm a lot of friends with a lot of people here. They're all really nice people. However, in almost every single house, there's someone living in it, or someone will be living in it. But there's one house near the end of the neighborhood that no one has lived in for quite some time. The place does look pretty abandoned. I mean, not too abandoned, but you could clear the house would be fixed up before it would ever have someone living in there again. Which, like I said, it hasn't had for a couple of years. A little while back, I wanted to really know about the place and was curious. So I asked some of the older neighbors there, and they said that they were actually close friends to someone who lived there. I think they said one of the things that was best known about him and throughout the neighborhood is that he was one of the people who worked for Sesame Street, which isn't really hard to believe. I mean, I think the place where they film it is kind of close to here. I wouldn't say it's really close, but it is pretty near here. And the place looked abandoned, and I always wondered if people have ever been in there, explored. I was wondering, and I've learned that there are some people who explored that place. Apparently, there actually are some cool stuff in there. So I decided to explore myself. Now I know that seems kind of stupid, but hey, I just wanted to give it a try, You never know, you might find something cool. Like I did. So I decided to put on some exploring clothes. I sometimes do that because I'm a bit of an explorer myself. And I went in the house. I could definitely hear a squeak in the door as it opened. Yeah, and the place, there were surprisingly still some things in there. One thing I noticed was a coffee table in what I think was supposed to be the living room. I thought that was pretty cool. So, and before you say I found some weird homeless guy in there, no, I didn't. The house was completely empty. I was the only breathing thing in there. And I explored, and while I didn't find there was anything that cool. I mean, there definitely were some cool stuff, but nothing I could really use. So on my way out, I noticed the coffee table again on when I reached the door, and I noticed something there that I didn't. It was a black rectangle with 2 white dots. Yep, it was a VHS tape. I looked on the back, expecting to see it was blank, but there wasn't. There's a little sticker that looked kind of see-through, and there was writing on it that said Oscar.6. Okay, that's kind of strange, I thought to myself. But then again, I remembered this guy used to work for Sesame Street, so or still, I don't know if he still does though. So I figured, maybe he made an episode that has to do with Oscar, because there are a lot of episodes segments that have to do with him, but the .6, I still to this day don't know what that was all about. So I grabbed the VHS tape and walked back to my house. Right then, I was instantly kind of thinking. Well, I read these creepypasta stories, and while I did expect there to be something kind of creepy on this tape, I did predict it from the start. But to be honest, at that moment, I didn't really care if I found something scary. I'm sure I would have some nightmares and all, but I still wanted to see. So I decided to put it on my old VHS tape that I have, and well, there was not that much left of it. There was just mostly static, which was kind of odd. However, though, I do remember there was at least like 2 seconds of an image of what looked like Elmo crawled up on the floor, which I thought was kind of strange. I mean, I've never seen Elmo like that. But anyway, I just thought, I guess Elmo had something to do with this too. But that was pretty much it. So I decided to take the VHS tape out, and I left it on my table for a little bit, planning to somehow find a way to see what was on it. And pretty soon I would find out. 2 weeks passed, and the tape was still there. I still really didn't know how I was going to get it to play, but I really did want to figure out. Throughout those 2 weeks, I was trying to try to get some extra money in my job, see if I can afford like one of those like DVD burners and blank discs. Cause I heard there are ways to like transport something from a VHS tape to a DVD. I thought maybe if I did that, I would be able to see what was on the tape. I'm not really sure if it would work, but hey, it's worth a try. But I still couldn't find anything. And so one day, I visited one of my friend's house. He lives in the same neighborhood. Him and I are really good friends. We talked a little bit, and I talked to him about the tape and how I found it, and how I've been trying to find a way to figure out what was on the tape. He actually said that he had a DVD VHS burner that or whatever he could use to transport that stuff. I don't know what it's called. Sorry. I lended him the tape so he could transport it to a disc. For like a week later, I didn't really hear from him. We did talk to each other now and then, but whenever I asked him about what was on the tape, he said he was working on it. But then after like the last day of that week, he said that him and I will meet up at like the nearest like restaurant that he was finished and he was gonna give it to me. So I thought, hey, I might as well. So I decided to go. There are quite some fast food places near my neighborhood. They're all really good places. So a little while I was eating, I saw him. He came. I waved hi to show him where he was, and when he came, he looked kind of pale. And I think this is how the conversation went. Dude, you okay, man? It looks like you saw a ghost. Yeah, I'm fine. Here's the disc. Oh, really? Wait, did you see what was on there? Yeah, I tell you, but hey, no spoilers. Thanks, man. Wow, you will like you saw something pretty unsettling. Yeah, you could say that. About what's on that disc, I don't really think you should see it, dude. Trust me, what's seen cannot be unseen. There's some things in the world that are not seen for a reason. Okay, dude, but I went through all this trouble just to see what was on this disc. Alright, fine. You can watch it, dude. Hey, you don't mind if I join you? Hey, go ahead, dude. Yeah, anyway, I already deleted that from my computer. It's all on the disc, dude. Okay, good. Thanks, man. I didn't mention it. So after that, we hung out in that restaurant for a while, and then afterwards, we both drove back to our houses. I was so excited to finally play this tape. So I went in my room, grabbed my laptop, put the disc in. After a while it was loaded, and it said something like said Oscar.6.avi, I think, or just Oscar.6 avi, I don't remember. So I clicked on it and popped up a video. It's days like this where I could just wish I could just go back in time, stop myself from doing that. Because you have no idea, like, all the nightmares I had after seeing that horrible image, those horrible sights, stuff that would make any 90s, 80s, 70s, or 60s kid just wanna bawl in or cut their eyes out, not wanting to see anything like that. But I have to tell the story of what was apparently a lost episode of, you guessed it, Sesame Street. It started out with just pitch blackness, and then something weird happened that I've never seen happen before. Then I saw what looked like the Children's Television Workshop logo. You know, the ones where like each three words are like with like come up with from left to right with sparkles and like, yeah, that, like, I haven't seen that logo in a long time. So I was of course confused, but I just let it slide. When I first saw that, I thought this was like one of those old episodes, but apparently I was wrong, because the next thing I see is the intro from 2009. You know, the one with the chalk, where the kids are like drawing with chalk and like we see all the characters. Yeah, that one. I thought that was kind of odd, but since they showed that old logo and then show one of their newest intros, but I just decided just to get past it. Like, I guess they added the logo in for nostalgia, I guess. The intro seemed fine. The lighting was a bit more darker, but that was like the only thing. However, though, like near the end of the intro, where like Super Grover hits the Sesame Street post sign, it suddenly hits to like a split second of static. Then after that, the sign falls and like the number of what episode it would be wasn't there, like, you know, hashtag and then those 4 numbers. But it was just this. Hashtag question mark. That definitely got me to scratch my head, but I just moved on anyway. And then after that, like, faded to white, then faded to scene, which I guess was like a nighttime view of like that main little area in Sesame Street. You know, the downstairs part of that, like a peach tan building where we see Oscar's trash can and what looks like all the doors leading to Big Bird's nest. Yeah, that area. It was a gory mess. There was no organs, but there was blood splatters everywhere. In fact, I could have sworn there was what looked like the words "Help me" written in blood. And I swear to God, I could have looked like like the arm and hand of a human skeleton. Yeah, that, yeah. Well, it didn't really make me sick, but I definitely knew this was definitely one of those lost episodes. But I still watched anyway. God, do I regret that. Then it faded into what looked like a dirty, lit hallway. Looked nothing like the inside of that house from when they showed inside of that house. It looked completely different. It looked like to be a giant mess. There were still some blood splatters, and along with it, also some more bones from a human skeleton, and like dirty stuff, like dirty food, like old brown banana peels, and dirty ripped clothes. And there were even like some scratch marks on the wall. Then it faded to another hallway where, like I said, the same thing, a messy and gory hallway. But then, where there looked like a light coming through one of the doors. It faded again, closer to the door, where you could hear what sounded like light, high-pitched sobbing. Then it faded to inside the room, where it just looked up between the ceiling and the top part of the wall. Then it went to what looked like the corner of the room. The camera went down, and there was crawled in a ball, slightly sobbing Elmo, the same one I saw from the tape. It was still Elmo's normal voice, but he was still like lightly sobbing. I know there are some points in the show where Elmo actually gets all sad and stuff, but I've never seen him actually be crying like this. I mean, it didn't sound realistic, like the voice actor was really crying, but the crying did sound way more better than usual. Then we see Elmo look up. His face is still normal. And then as he says these words.
Oscar, what have you done? You were afraid. Why? Why did you do this? Why?
He sounded like a child who just got beaten and was begging to end the pain. And my heart personally hurt for him, and it is odd because I don't even like Elmo all that much. And I know he's not real, but hey, when you grow up watching these characters, you start to feel real to you. And so you feel for them whenever they're upset, even though they're not real. That's how I felt. Then as quick as a snap, it then showed Oscar. Oh God, I can still remember how he looked. He had what looked like a sharp kitchen's knife being gripped in his right hand. He had blood splatters all over him. Not as if they were like covering him from head to toe, but there was still a lot. And I could have sworn looked like some red in his eyes. Oscar looked down at what I guess was Elmo. His head tilted a little bit. Then he started laughing. It sounded like Oscar's normal voice, but way lower pitched. I wouldn't say like a demon, but like as if someone took him talking and like lowered it down to a pretty low pitch that would sound kind of scary. And to be honest, I was kind of shaking up a bit too. Then Oscar said this.
Oh, Elmo. Sweet, innocent little Elmo. I can believe you not seen it coming. But I'm actually shocked no one else did. But I did. I'm sure all of our adoring fans did as well.
I could tell that he sounded kind of annoyed when he said the words adoring fans. Wow, I get as if he's heard this like 1,000 times and was sick of it.
All of those years, I've put up with all of you, with your happiness, your joy, and always wanting to look into the best of everyone. I, of course, knew I would eventually do all this and this would all happen. But until then, I just played along. Act like one of those grouches that, while would complain about everything, I still stayed. I originally didn't really want to do it. However, though, the more the years went by, the more that I grew in love with the idea. The more I would count the days until it would finally happen. And well, it just, like a week ago, I finally snapped. I didn't really expect him to be the first one to go. But that's what he gets for trying to throw away my valuable possessions.
After he said that, what sounded like a little like transitioning sound, like to show a flashback, started, and then it faded to white again and revealed. Oh my god! What looked to be a corpse of Grover. There was like a dark red, wet crack on his head. There was still some what looked like blood that was flowing from it. It was dried up, and his limbs were cut off too. I thought, no, there's no way Oscar would have done this. Yeah, he was like a grouch in the show, but he'd never actually harm anyone. Would he? Oscar spoke again.
I was honestly shocked that just like 20 hits with those 2 trash can lids. After that I was able to hear a snip or a horrifying crack in Grover's head. I knew people would eventually find out. They'd eventually have a search party. They'd eventually figure out I did it. So I knew I had it. So I hid it. It's been in my trash can ever since. And now I'm sure you're wondering, how would I be able to fit everyone else in there? Well, as you know, back in 1999, it's actually pretty huge compared to what it looks like outside.
Wait a minute. As you know? I assume he's talking to Elmo as he said his name in the beginning, but what does he mean as you know? Well, as I would later find out, there was a movie in 1999 called Elmo in Grouchland, where Elmo tries to find his blanket and he ends up going in Oscar's trash can, which has a portal which apparently takes to what I think is Grouchland, which is what Grouchland, where I think is where Oscar maybe grew up in. I don't know. And I was all like, and I was actually kind of surprised that they actually referenced that. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure Sesame Street does have continuity, but man, I didn't think they actually referenced one of their movies. And then it faded to white again, showing another remained of a famous character. This one I can remember a lot. This one and the next 2 little images, and the last one I can remember greatly. This one was a big bird. Oh my god, it looked like his beak was cut off, and it looked like he was caught on fire a bit. I could tell because a bit of his feathers looked to be charred black, and most of them gone, revealing what looked like dark pink, supposedly cooked flesh. I really felt like vomiting at this point. Oh my god, like I can still remember how realistic it looked. Oscar then again spoke.
My next victim was that before picture of oversized fried chicken. Then those 2 were always, together for some reason. And then that purple vampire. Man, he sure loved counting. And the list just goes on and on and on.
As he said that, it then faded to another picture. What looked like a dead, like the corpses of Bert and Ernie. Look from what it looked like, Bert's eyes were looking up as if he was trying to see his unibrow. And it looked like Ernie's hair was cut off, along with some part of his top skin, revealing his bloody skull. And it looked like Bert's stomach was cut open. It looks like he was hanged with his like organs. Like I could tell it wasn't real organs. Like it was kind of like something like it was kind of like meat, like sausages and like ground beef and all that. But oh my god, it looked just so realistic then. Just when you have to watch it with me to know what I'm talking about. Next one, what looked like the rest of the count, and and his skin was more of like a white, like more of a brighter purple. I guess that's supposed to indicate that he was like impaled, so to speak. There was what looked like a sharp wooden stick in his chest, which I guess makes sense. I mean, he is a vampire after all. But other than that, and he also had some other stuff, like some of his limbs looked like twisted in wrong ways, and then, oh my god, it's so hard for me to remember though, like that, because next thing I show was like image of dead Sesame Street characters. So many of them that I can barely remember what their remains looked like. But I'm gonna try to name as many as I saw in that little montage. Zoe, dead. Harry, dead. Snuffleupagus, dead. Telly, dead. Dead. And Abby Cadabby, dead. Even some characters that were in different country versions of Sesame Street, dead. But then the last one I saw, it honestly was the one that shocked and disgusted me the most. The fur was a bit of like a light grayish blue kind of color. He had what his jaw looked like. It was like forcibly stretched over, as if someone like grabbed it and pushed it down by force. His stomach was cut open. His chest was cut open. The heart being removed, staining the fur, with his blood staining the fur. His eyes looked like they were gouged out, but still seeable. And it looked like he had a giant bag of cookies shoved down his overstretched mouth. With that, I could tell this was without a doubt Cookie Monster. I think it affected me the most, since he's like my favorite character. It was so disgusting that I had to just pause it and run to the bathroom and just vomit. After that, I went back and replayed the movie. The episode. A part of me wanted me to just take it out and just destroy the disc, but after that I had to watch the rest of this. I had to know. Well, luckily, when I unpaused it, the montage of dead characters was over, and we went back to the scene, and then we see Oscar, still looking as scary as still, covered in blood, holding a kitchen knife, a bit of red in his eyes, and I could have sworn it looked like he had more blood splatters on him. I guess they were there before, but I just didn't notice, shucking the moment, so to speak.
Soon will be no one left but me, and I'll finally be able to be in peace and quiet, and make this place my own personal dump. When there's only one more person left. Well, as a doctor would say, your hour's up. But you're the only one left in this place besides me. So, well, goodbye.
Next thing we see, we go back to Elmo, except now Oscar is visible. We see his backside as he begins to slowly approach the red monster. Then the camera pans away, only showing the shadow of the two. As we hear Elmo's last words.
No, Oscar, please, no, I promise, I'll do anything, please, no.
The very next thing I hear is Elmo's blood-curdling screams of pain and what sounds like flesh being stabbed into over and over and over again, as we see what looked like Oscar's shadow stabbing Aunt Elmo's shadow mercilessly as we hear Elmo's blood-curdling screams of pain, as I just said. We also hear Oscar's maniacal, evil laughter. It was too much for me. Then after that, it fades out. We see again all those images that looked like the houses that we saw earlier. As it fades out again, fades to what looked to again the outside of what we saw in the beginning. From what it looked like it was just a still image. And then it faded again. It faded again to what looked like a photo of the Sesame Street sign with the Sesame Street pole, with the street sign. As we then see Oscar's green hand with what looked like a lighter, as we see as he lights the sign on fire, as he says the final thing said in this horrid episode.
It's been nice knowing you, Sesame Street, but this show and this place have long since run its course. Farewell.
After that, then that's what the last thing he said. Before, all I hear is once again Oscar's maniacal laughter. And from what I heard, it sounded like his voice was starting to get lower when he said that line. And the last thing we see is just Oscar's hand still holding the still lit lighter, as we see the Sesame Street sign starting to burn and melt. Soon Oscar's laughter is then started to be no longer being hearable, being overly lapped by the sounds of fire, as it then faded to black, bringing this horrid thing to a close. And then after that, it was just nothing but blackness. No credits, no main menu, nothing. Just that. After that, then it stopped. After that, I clicked out, obviously disgusted by what I've just seen. After a while, I took the disc out, and then I just left it on my computer for a bit. Then I decided to just watch some TV to get my mind off of what I saw, even though it was still running through my mind as I was just watching this television. Then I went to bed. But I had some pretty horrid nightmares, so to speak. The next day, I decided to just sit. I decided I was feeling not so well. Guess the episode made me feel a little ill, so I called my work and called in sick. For the rest of the day, I was just laying in bed, or just getting off to go to the bathroom or get a snack. I just didn't know what to say. After a while, like the next day, I was okay again. I was back to work, all that. When I got home, I decided that I needed to find out how that horrible episode came from and how it came to be. So I decided to call up Sesame Workshop. I know that didn't really seem like that much of a smart idea, but I still did it anyway. I didn't really expect to get that much of an answer, so I called them, just asked them how the episode came to be and where it came from. I didn't really expect them to answer, though. So after that, I was like left with voicemail. After that, I think 3 days later, I heard what sounded like the phone ringing. I wasn't able to get it in time because I'm a bit of a slow man. However, though, I saw that the caller did indeed leave a message, and it was the number of Sesame Workshop. I was of course surprised that they somehow answered me so quickly. So I decided to listen to the message, and here's what it said.
Before I tell you anything, I just want to thank you for us about what you saw and all that. We just want to say that, like, we at Sesame Workshop owe no rights to what you've witnessed. However, though, we do believe that an explanation is in order. It was the year 2009, because it was like Sesame Street's 40th anniversary. Like, things were like pretty busy. We were like finding ways to celebrate and all that. Then, like, one day we got that tape you talked about. You said in the mail. Apparently there was a note saying that, like, he made it as like a fan thing. Like, it's not meant to be a real episode. He just made it as like a thing, and he just thought we wanted our opinions on it. Well, there was no return address, so we couldn't. But we still decided to just watch it anyway. You know, just as a joke. We didn't show it to kids, thankfully. We just some of the executives watched it. And needless to say, yeah, they were horrified with the nature on it. And actually, one of them actually had to go to the hospital, to the emergency room, due to what was on it. We decided we had to make sure no one saw this, and like one of the people who works for us, who still does, who, believe it or not, actually used to live in that house you talked about, that you explored, and to find that tape. I guess he decided to find the tape and just put it there in his abandoned house, so no one would ever see it. But unfortunately, someone did. Look, and we just want to say, like, again, thank you for contacting us about it, and we ask you to please to not reveal this tape to the public, as we do not want to scar any of our fans who love Sesame Street. If you like want to if you want to show some screenshots, that's okay, I guess. But I'm afraid that's all you can ever show to the public. But thank you for like the third time. Thank you for contacting us. Sincerely, Sesame Workshop.
Well, I was kind of satisfied with what I heard. I know that not that much was explained, but I was still happy with what I got. Anyway, a part of me told me just to get the disc and just destroy it, so I wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. But to be honest, I actually still have the disc. I put it in my closet just to show myself that what I experienced was real and that I'm not going crazy. Out of respect for Sesame Workshop, I'm afraid I cannot reveal the episode or show it to the public. But they did say I could show some screenshots, so that I did do. Here's 2 of them. Well, you should have already seen them. Anyway, so yeah. To be honest, I didn't really intend on telling anyone about this. But recently I was reminded about it, so I just decided to finally tell someone. Needless to say, it feels good to finally share it. So, thank you for listening to my story.
Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed this creepypasta. And if you didn't, if you liked it or not, let me know in the comments. Also, let me know what story you want me to read next in the comments below. And with that, this has been the first ever high-fivered creepypasta reading. See you all next time.